Hello everyone, how are you all doing? And a very warm welcome to finally a new video on the channel. It has been a very long while, but finally we are back. And we're back with some more Ziggo Pro League. So previous season, so that means last year, we obviously were in this competition as well. We were driving a Mercedes back then, and as you can see we finished in second place in the championship. The championship leader, or the guy who won the championship, is not here for this season. So of course it's a fresh season, new people have joined, some others have left. I think most people have stayed. I think the biggest difference is out from the wall leaving, and a new driver coming into the field as well, who is called Overtaking. Does some real life racing as well, I believe. But besides that, we're also driving in a Haas instead of a Mercedes. Now we're not driving in the house, of course, alone. We're driving together with Boris Poelstra, and he is known as Racecraft KLM, and we were teammates with him during the last season as well, when we were driving for Mercedes. So that is pretty much stayed. We're all set for the new season, and as always, the first round is at Australia. So this is the qualifying lap that you are seeing here. We've currently got a 119.9 on the board, and the target really was to get into a low 19. I remember that that we did something like a 119.2, that would be the target. So far this is a pretty poor benchmark. We're currently down in 9th place, and we really want to improve here on this last lap time, because if we don't do that, then we have a bit of a disastrous first qualifying of the season. However, so far so good, already a quarter of a second up on the previous time of a 119.894, so technically a 119.9 through the middle sector. Then very important here to get the traction right. Traction always being very important around Australia, and then this is a beautiful part of the track in my opinion. Messing it up a little bit there, because you want to take a lot more on the inside curb of the left-hander. Took a lot of curb on the inside of the right-hander, by the way. I was very surprised to not have a corner cut warning through there, or an invalidated lap time rather. Final sector then, this is a bit of the, I think, the Achilles heel, especially this corner here. I absolutely hate that corner. Got through there, alright, bit of a struggle on the traction on the exit. Final corner then across the line, and only 3/10 up, and I remember being a little bit disappointed with that. I really was aiming for 190.2, it was definitely on the cards. And after the first sector being quarter of a second up was not too bad, but I couldn't keep that flow going through the rest of the lap, especially in that fast left-right chicane. I messed that up quite a bit, so lost a little bit of time in the final sector compared to our opponents. Nonetheless though, starting from P4 I think it was, and a 2-stop is on the cards for this round. Now we know that Jarno is a guy who is recently come into this league, and immediately he is qualified on pole. So let's see what he has got in the race, because the people who have been watching the previous races, the race goes on the way, sorry, the people who have been watching the previous championship from last year, they know that there is a night and day difference between the qualifying and the race. In the race it's really so much about tire management, and in qualifying, of course, you don't really need to keep that in the back of your head, as we have a bit of a dive bomb there from Carlsen to the third turn already. A bit of contact was made, but that can happen. Up ahead we see Gemso and Racecraft, our teammate, then battling quite hard. Somewhere during round 3 or 4 of the season, everyone in this league should have more logical names, nicknames in the game. So that means they actually have their own like real name instead of a nickname, which will make it, I think, easier and better for us to understand and for me to commentate. So just keep that a little bit in the back of your mind for the time being. First lap though, you can see Jarno has absolutely flown off into the distance at this point. He's very far ahead, but you know, again, our teammate Racecraft, he is called Boris. Boris and I are very much race-like minded. We don't make a setup for the qualifying at all. We really want to make a setup that is suitable for the race, and we do compromise qualifying pace because of that a bit. But you know, that's acceptable really. I mean, one lap in qualifying is never as important as 58 laps in a race, you know? So you always want to focus on getting the setup right for the race, because you will always, as we get our first warning that it's a bit sloppy, you always want to have the rear tires working well. You always want to keep them within a nice window, and if you can't keep them in a nice window, at the end of lap 5 you start to struggle, and that's exactly what we are seeing here. Jono Opmeer is currently leading. He pulled away in the first 2-3 laps or so. He was really rapid. But then I reckon his tires must have worn. He must have run out of ERS or fuel or whatever. And now he needs to conserve a little bit more. And then you can see that most people are trying to, or are slowly catching back up to him again. And that's what we are seeing here. We've got a 4-car train for the lead right here of this race. Lap 7. The pit stop window opens at roughly lap 10. Lap 10 is very early, so let's keep it at something like lap 11. Lap 12 maybe. Cost behind is 1.5 seconds back, so shouldn't be really too worried about him at this point. But of course, when we start battling quite heavily here, that means that the whole field is going to bunch up a little bit closer towards each other. But that's not really the case. At the end of lap 8, you can see it right here. There's a lot of battling going on. And now the question is, you know, when are you going to attack? You can see here Boris, our teammate, is already quite feisty here in his battle with Jarno Opmeer. Jarno defending, of course, his position, but you know, the people who have been watching the previous championship, I keep saying this, and who have been racing on this game in general, in competitions and leagues, they know that there are a few aspects in this game that make racing or the race very important. I think, oh, that was close. I think the biggest one is tire management, especially the rear tires. But some timing aspects in this game are incredibly important as well, such as strategy, but also making your move. And sometimes you just have to wait for a mistake from your opponent, like here. Jamso is going off, touch the grass on the outside there. It's a very tricky part of the track. If you touch the outside, the grass on the outside there, it's very easy to lose the car, and that's exactly what happened there. Coming back onto the point that I was going to say, as we have got Jamso, who's still in the race, but he is out of contention, of course, for roughly probably a podium. What I was going to say though, timing is important, not only in terms of strategy, but also when are you going to make your move? When are you going to pass the guy that's in front of you? Because you have to remember, DRS is a game changer in this game. DRS can dictate the race. If you have DRS, it is usually very powerful. If you have it, as Boris finally goes through on Jarno, if you have DRS, then you can save ERS, or you could save fuel, and you can still stay behind the guy that's in front of you quite easily, because the DRS is relatively powerful. So while you are in the DRS, you can save ERS and save fuel, and you can see it here, our ERS percentage at the moment is 100%. So we have got plenty of spare, whereas Jarno, he has been fighting with Boris for the last 4 laps or so. I reckon his ERS level will be a lot lower than ours, so it's all about timing. When are you going to make your move? And another warning there, turning a bit too early. And again, if you have followed last season, last championship, I said it quite a lot of times there as well. Sometimes you actually want to wait until lap 58 to make your move, in my opinion. Because when you make the move, let's say we are now in lap 44 and I make a move on Jarno right now. I think we'll be pitting soon, by the way. This is lap 11. Yeah, Boris stays out, so that means we are going in, and same goes for Jarno. So let's actually see what happens here before I finish off this story. Here we go, entering the pit lane quite safely here. There we go. Lap 11 out of 58, first stop. We will go to the Super Soft. Yep, Super Soft it is. And then we've got another stop to go. Being held there quite long. I'm not sure exactly what the reason was for that. But we lost quite a bit of time then in the pit stop phase. Pit exit then. Here we go. You can see that the gap to Jarno is quite big, and now we've actually got cars quite close behind us. So not an ideal pit stop phase there. Bit rough, and I don't really know why we got held so long. But whatever, you need to deal with it. Quickly finishing off my story, so our teammate is going into the pit lane as well. What I wanted to say with regards to the timing, sometimes if we were in lap 44 and we would overtake Jarno, he would be sticking behind us again with DRS and save his ERS and fuel in the meantime, if we get our first penalty there. And then, you know, he would make his move in lap 58 or something like that, because, you know, when you have 100% ERS, you can just go flat out, you know, go overtake mode. It's very easy to overtake then. A bit of a complicated story, I'm not going to go too much in depth on that. I assume most people will have watched last season as well, and they will exactly know what I'm talking about. But let's keep it at this. Timing is important. So our teammate has pitted then, and we are seeing a massive train of cars in front of us. And actually, there's debris flying all over the place. Boris and Jarno are battling quite hard, and we've got 2 cars in the way as well. One is already being passed by us around the outside of turn 5, I believe that is. There's actually 4, if I'm not mistaken. And Binnenband now, who's ahead of us, is on a 13 lap old ultra soft tire. So we want to get by as soon as possible. There we are, rich mixture, overtake mode. In front we see Jarno and Boris battling as well. Jarno actually pushing Boris way off the track there. And that is another place gained, so that's 3 places gained in 1 lap already. Can we also tackle Jarno? Not just yet, not a lot of room there. Perform a little bit of a switchback of a cross right there. Cross back on him, overtake mode, DRS, rich mixture, round the outside here. Can we do it? I reckon we can, and yes we can. So that's 4 cars in 1 lap. This is what I mean with timing as well. It is exactly this, picking the right time to go, you know, beast mode, overtake mode, rich mixture. Of course DRS helps, but actually I think Jarno has gone into the pit lane, and yes he has. So all the debris that was flying around there, I reckon some of that debris must have been a front wing end plate coming from Jarno's front wing. So very unfortunate scenario for Jarno, of course. He is having to pit, but for the 2 Haas drivers, so that means Boris and ourselves, this is the perfect scenario. Especially for me, as I am now in the lead of the race with, what is it? 37 laps to go. So there's still a long way to go. But first of all, Gemzo, he crashed at this point, so he is gone. Jarno has lost his front wing end plate, so he is gone. It basically means that we've got the 2 Haas drivers left. Of course, Kas, the Ferrari driver, was driving behind us. But I reckon that, well, at least my observance, what I noticed during this race was he was not fast enough really to stick with us. It was not by a lot really, as Counter-Strike is going into the pit lane for his first stop. It wasn't really by a lot that Kas was slower, but I think consistently 2 or 3 tenths maybe. And we can see here Flores Wires. He's currently leading the race. He started from the back of the grid because I believe he had 3 invalidated lap times in the quali. Usually Flores is of course a very fast driver, but with his quali, of course, that heavily compromised him, and he's going into the pit lane now as well. So there we are, into the lead of the race, lap 23, and there are still 35 laps to go. Gap to Boris behind our teammate, 1.5 seconds. So let's keep an eye on that. Now one thing that was in the back of my head as well at this point was the amount of penalties that we have got. We've currently got a 3-second penalty. I'm not sure how much Boris has got, but we'll find out maybe a bit later in this race. For now we just need to keep our heads down, keep going, and try to do our best. And I was somewhat trying as well, as Boris is going for an undercut on us. I was somewhat trying as well to build a gap to Boris. I couldn't do it though. The gap was consistently 1.5 seconds. And with Boris now going for an undercut, we really need to push on this in-lap in order to stay in front of him. So that's exactly what we are doing here. We're burning up a little bit more fuel at this stage. We're using a little bit more of our ERS at this stage in order to try to defend from that undercut that our teammate is going for. Now Boris and I have got a very good, I reckon a good racing connection between the 2 of us. I think we're quite sensible in the fact that we of course want to battle each other quite hard, but always within the rules, always fair. So that's good. There's definitely no kind of team orders or that kind of stuff that would be silly. And there we are. This is a good 8 lap, I reckon. I reckon this is a very good 8 lap. You saw it on the sector split time there as well. We were over 2 tenths up, I think, on our personal best. So far this in lap very good, and hopefully that sees us in front of Boris once we exit the pit lane. So just double checking everything on the car there. Next tires, it says it right there, super soft tires. Should mean that we have to do a 23-second stint at the end here, and that should not be a problem at all. So there we are, back into the pit lane. And hopefully this time we get released a little bit quicker. I don't think there's anyone else into the pit lane. Having said that, Kas is coming in now, but the gap to Kas is quite big, so we don't have to worry about that. 2.7 pit stop, and now we need to look and wait and find out whether we come out in front or behind our teammate. And it seems like comfortably in front. Yes, we are comfortably in front. So performing the undercut. At least that's what Boris tried there. Couldn't do it. Couldn't get by us. I reckon that was also a bit due to the good in lap that we had. And of course, when you have an out lap, you know, it takes roughly half a lap, something thereabout, for the tires to properly warm up. And until that point, they don't offer a lot of grip, even though they are fresh. 1.2 seconds to our teammate. So again, it's over a second, and I think that's, you know, the most important thing really. Having that gap above a second, trying to keep your teammate outside of your DRS zone. And now we are behind Flores then, and he was at this point of the race lagging a lot. And I got kind of scared, to be honest, at this point. I was like, okay, I'm in the lead of the race. This guy, we're not really fighting for a position. He is lagging heavily. There we see he's even teleporting. Now, how are we going to tackle this? Because if he lags a lot and I hit his gearbox and lose my front wing, that would be very, very sore. So I was performing with extreme caution at this point. I did not want to lose my front wing. That does allow Boris, however, to close the gap a little bit to us again. He's now within a second. And with 18 laps to go, we have only got Flores really to clear in front of us. And then it's a two-way fight for the race victory here. But of course, it's good to have Boris behind as a teammate. Like I said, we have a good racing connection, but outside of that, we are also good friends. So, you know, we know each other very well, and that's always nice, really. There's some kind of chemistry then that you have in the team, which is nice, very nice. So let's see what we're going to do here. There's a DRS zone coming up quite soon. I think Flores has, his connection has stabilized, which means that we should be going for an overtake quite soon here. Already going up into Rich Mixer, you can see it right there. So preparing an overtake around this point with the DRS enabled, overtake mode as well. Let's see what we have to do. Do we have to go around the outside? No, we don't. Flores leaves the door wide open on the entry here. And there we are, passed quite easily. There we are. So Flores is not really bothered to defend there. He's got his own strategy, of course. He's running on a soft tire. I think he does not need to make another pit stop, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he does need to make another pit stop. I'm not entirely sure. Nonetheless, though, I'm past Flores, and it is now time for me to push a little bit. Try to get the gap to Boris over a second once he is also past Flores, which may happen quite soon. And there we are, lap 43 of the race. It has indeed already happened. Boris is again behind us, but indeed that gap is once again over a second. But there were some thoughts right now starting to creep into my mind. I kept seeing our teammate behind us for roughly 1.5, 1.4, 1.3 seconds throughout this race. Like every single lap, the gap has been something like 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. And I started to think, maybe Boris is saving. Maybe he is faster than we are. And he is preparing to go for an overtake in the final couple of laps of this race. And then use all of his ERS that he has saved while he was behind me. Saving his ERS and fuel. So once he's past us, he will use all of that fuel. And all of that ERS, we got another warning there. And then, you know, he will pull away and get the victory. So I was thinking about that because I was pushing quite a bit and I could not get the gap over 1.5 seconds, something like that. So it really felt like Boris was just playing with us at this point, and he would be waiting for, I don't know, lap 56, lap 57, maybe lap 58 even, to really make his move. So I was starting to push right now, and you can see here we're doing 123.1, which is the fast lap of the race. But again, that gap is 1.3 seconds, and I started to push too much. And then you can see there are time penalties that are creeping up. There are some things that you do differently. You drive more sloppy, you drive more inconsistent, and that's exactly the mistake that I made. You see it right here, there's another warning. I know the gap is slowly rising, it's now 1.6 seconds. But funnily enough, Boris was every single lap roughly 0.2 faster in the final sector. So what I did was, okay, I was like, pushing right now does not make any more sense. I cannot get the gap over 1.5 seconds even if I push. The only thing that I accomplished by pushing is picking up more warnings, more penalties, and I'm draining my ERS and fuel. So I was like, I'm gonna stop doing that. I'm gonna save my ERS so that if Boris does go for an overtake, or for at least he starts to open up the attack, I will have plenty of fuel and plenty of ERS to at least defend, you know, because when Boris starts attacking us with, I don't know, 90% ERS and we have 20, then you have a problem. So I was saving as much ERS as possible at this stage, while of course staying in front of Boris as well. That does mean, however, that he has crept into our DRS zone. He is now within our DRS zone, but you know, I did not care, because okay, you know, the gap was before roughly 1.5 seconds, but I really had the feeling he was just playing with us, saving his fuel, saving his ERS, and then make a move at the end of the race. I really felt like he was doing that. I thought that was his plan, and the best way to counter against that plan, in my opinion, was to do the same thing. Save fuel, save a bit more ERS, so that when he starts to attack, I can easily defend. And then lap 56, there's a back marker out of the pit lane. Really close there with the back marker. Luckily we got through there without any damage. But it is getting quite intense now with a couple more laps to go. I was really expecting a massive fight at the end of the race here. But then, you see it right there. You touch the sausage curb that is lying there on the outside of turn 4, I think it is. And you pick up a penalty. And, oh man, it is such a sore penalty. And I was pretty afraid that is going to cost us the race victory. Of course I don't know yet, because I don't know how many time penalties Boris has got. But, oh man, you know, let's forget about it. We'll see at the end of the race what happens with that penalty. If it is the case that we finish second because of that, then maybe I need to lock myself in a dark room. Here comes Boris, by the way. This is the attack that I was indeed waiting for, breaking really late there, and he able to stay in front for the time being. Really seemed like Boris was past us at that point. He really was ahead when we started to enter the braking zone, but really late on the brakes there, having the inside line of the corner. Luckily we were able to stay in front for the time being. So this is now the time where the attack from Boris really has opened up, with 2 more laps to go. And let's see whether we can stay in front of him. Obviously as well, at this point the tires are not in optimal condition anymore, but Boris and I have created, as we are somewhat in the middle of the road here trying to defend from Boris, but Boris and I had I think a good setup on the car that was good on the tires, so tires will not be an issue. No, you won't see any kind of sliding or drifting as we come through the last corner right now with 1 more lap to go, so there's 1 more chance for Boris to get this done, but I don't know. I don't know what he's going to do. Fastest lap of the race as well for us, personal best lap in the penultimate lap of the race. That shows that we are still pushing of course quite hard, trying to keep Boris behind us. So far so good though. But again, we need to see how many penalties Boris has picked up during this race. We have picked up 3 penalties, and I was afraid that was going to be too much. I was already afraid that 2 was going to be too much. But now we have 3, so we'll see. I was a bit skeptical about it. We'll see what happens at the end of the race. That's all we can do. So there's 1 more DRS zone that's really coming up. Of course there's a DRS zone down the start-finish straight, but I don't think Boris has got enough distance really to get the move done on us coming out of the final corner. So this is the last chance for Boris to get the move done, but the gap to him is 6 tenths, so that should be big enough. I reckon it is big enough. I don't see any proximity arrows on the screen just yet, so indeed Boris is way too far behind us to get a move done. Now I'm not sure if he does this because he knows that I have a lot of penalties, or I don't know. We'll see what happens at the end of the race. We are about to find it out. Last corner, as we saw 2 cars battling in front of us, by the way. One of them was going into the wall. We come across the line in first place, but as you can see on top left of your screen, at the end of the race, that lap 56 penalty cost us the win. And man, that is sore. That is really sore. But in the end, you know, you only have yourself to blame. Oh man. And this is exactly what I was talking about, by the way. We had a really clean streak really from, I don't know, lap 12 until lap 42 or something like that. And then, as you can see, that was the moment, roughly lap 42 was the moment where I started to think about Boris preparing an attack for at the end, and that's exactly where it went wrong. So that is something that I will hopefully learn from and carry with me for the rest of the season now. If that happens again, I just need to stay a bit more calm, you know, because this was not the right way to do it. Again, that left 56 penalty really, yeah, really was the one penalty that killed us. Which can happen, because in the end came third, Gemso fourth by the way, which is very impressive considering his crash from before. That is actually really impressive. But again, we saw Jarno, who had a blistering qualifying time, so he qualified on pole. Gemso was also very fast, but again, Jarno, maybe it was his first race or whatever. It definitely was his first race in this league. But I reckon he took a bit of a too aggressive setup. And again, this is what I said before, there's a night and day difference in the race, between the race and qualifying and how you approach things. It really is a key factor in this game, in F1 2018. Nonetheless, Boris and I finished first and second, so that is of course very good. But Jarno and Gemso's pace seemed very promising, so we need to be on the back of our heels really, and just keep paying attention to what those guys are doing as well, and try to improve ourselves at the same time. So this was the first video in a very long while. I hope you have enjoyed it. I felt like I was a bit rusty as well, you know, I need to get back into the groove a little bit as well of the commentary. Hopefully that all will get better. It should get better, hopefully. And if you have enjoyed it, then I would sincerely appreciate a like as well. Thanks all for watching. First round of the season, plenty of rounds to go. If you have any constructive feedback, criticism, or you have some advice, please let me know in the comment section of the video. I always keep an eye out on that. So thanks for watching again. Take care of yourselves and goodbye.